Hi, my name's Andrew. I'm from Aviation Australia, and in this video I'm going to show you how to decode a TAF, otherwise known as an aerodrome forecast. Now the TAF, or the Aerodrome Forecast, it's a widely used tool in the aviation world that helps pilots understand what weather will affect them at a particular aerodrome. For instance, it can give you information such as the forecast wind speed and direction. That's obviously going to tell us which runway we could expect to use. Also gives us information such as cloud bases and hazardous weather, even such as fog and thunderstorm. Now for you as an RPAS pilot, you might be thinking, why do I have to understand how to decode a TAF? Now I guess the first thing is it's actually part of the CASA syllabus, so you need to understand how to decode the TAF to qualify for the remote pilot's license. And I guess CASA's viewpoint is that the remote pilot's license, it's really a gateway qualification. Eventually you might move beyond your multi-rotor RPA and onto bigger and better things such as beyond visual line of sight or beyond. So they're thinking big picture here, and that's why they want you to understand how to decode the TAF. The other good thing about the TAF is it's actually quite accurate. The Bureau of Meteorology might give you a forecast, for example, saying showers or rain clearing, but you don't actually know what time that is expected to occur, and that's where the TAF can be quite useful. So what I'm going to demonstrate now is how to actually get in through the Airservice Australia website, which you can see in the background here, and explain to you how to go through an example. And I'm going to use the Brisbane forecast for that. So at the moment, I'm on the Airservices Australia website, which is just airservicesaustralia.com. And I'll explain this in our operational planning video, how to use NAIPS properly. If this is the first time you've seen NAIPS, you access it through the flight briefing link at the top here. And then you go to NAIPS Internet Service. For those unfamiliar with NAIPS, this system will provide you with information such as weather forecasts as well as NOTAM and other operational information. So very useful for remote pilots as well as general manned pilots. For the login screen, if you haven't obtained a login yet, you can register at the site here. It's free. For me, I'm going to log in now. And here I am. Now what I'm going to look at is the Brisbane Aerodrome Forecast. The reason for that is I'm in Brisbane at the moment. It's late at night. It's about 8 o'clock at night when I'm filming this video. And what I actually want to do is go out and fly my RPA tomorrow. But what I've seen from the weather forecast is they're expecting rain throughout most of the day. So I just want to get a bit of an appreciation for whether the rain will actually ease at some stage throughout the day. And we'll sort of see what the chances are that I actually fly my RPA tomorrow. So to access the Aerodrome forecast, you got the briefing tabs down the side here. All you want to do is go to location briefing. Now the location you want to type in for the aerodrome, it's the 4-figure ICAO code for the aerodrome, and the code can be found from the IRSA if you need to look it up. For Brisbane's case, it's YBBN. And I just hit submit. And here I am, I've got the briefing location results for Brisbane. Now this is the general TAF here, or Aerodrome Forecast for Brisbane. So I'm going to go through and decode it now. So it gives me in plain language Brisbane, YBBN, which was that aerodrome code which I spoke about. And the first line here says it's a TAF. The COR, core, you don't see that often. That just means there's been a correction made to this particular TAF. It's confirming that the location's YBBN. And this here is a time, date, group stamp for when this forecast was actually published. So the first 2 digits here, they indicate the day of the month, so it's the second day of the month, followed by 0533. Now that's the time that this was published in Zulu or UTC. So this was published at 05330. For those that have done our general aeronautical knowledge briefing, we would have done time conversions, and we spoke about to convert a UTC time, or Greenwich, or that's sort of over near Greenwich in the UK. To convert it to a local time, you have to add 10 hours. So in this case here, 0533 Zulu, or otherwise known as 0533 UTC, you add your 10 hours. That means that this was published at 1533 local time. The way I like to remember these calculations too, between UTC and local time, is here in Australia, if you've ever rung a relative or a friend that's in the UK, you ring them in the afternoon, they're answering it early in the morning. So that's the way I like to think about adding and subtracting time between the two. And the next part of it here is going to be talking about from when the forecast is actually valid from. Now, before I go too far into it, what I want to do is just throw a bit of an example in here, something for us to work with. So in particular, I want to know what time, what the weather's going to be like if I want to go flying at midday tomorrow. So midday tomorrow, local time would be 1200 local time. Now you might want to write that down because we're going to be doing a couple of different calculations here. So local time tomorrow is going to be 1200, 1200. Brisbane, it's UTC plus 10, which means it's 10 hours ahead of over in Greenwich in the UK. So to get a UTC time and everything in aviation written down on papers in UTC, what we need to do is subtract 10 hours from the local time. So I said the local time I'm looking for is 1200. You take your 10 hours, that's going to make it 0200 or 0200 UTC. So write that down, 0200 UTC. My next step is that I'm going to now actually want to go through and find out, well, what weather is going to be appropriate for that. The other thing to consider too, it gets a little bit confusing here, is actually the date. So at the moment, as you can see at the top here, it's telling me that today's date is October the 2nd in UTC. So tomorrow is going to go and be the 3rd day of the month. So we just need to keep that in mind too. Now going back through the TAF, this first little stamp here, that's telling me what time the forecast overall is valid from. So this became valid from the 2nd day of the month at 0600 UTC. Convert that locally, that was 1600 this afternoon. What this next part's telling me is that this forecast is now valid through to the 3rd, which will be tomorrow, at 1200 UTC, which is 2200 local. Now, something to remember here is it gets a little bit confusing. I said it was 0600, but you only ever saw the 2 digits 06, for example. Wherever you see a slash in a set of numbers, like you've got in between the two here, they've actually dropped off the last 2 digits. So another example, not just here, but if we look down here, we've got another set of times with a slash in the middle, another one here, and another one here. In each of one of these cases, the 2 zeros has been dropped off the end. So all we've got is an hour figure and no minutes. That's different to this time date group stamp here. And you can see there's no slash. We've actually got 2 zeros at the end. So that's a little bit confusing for people when they first look at these forecasts. Okay, so back to what I was saying. So from today at 0600 UTC, the weather was, the wind first of all, 080 degrees, so basically an easterly at 14 knots. The visibility was 9 kilometers, and this is the only real distance in aviation that's measured in meters and not nautical miles. So the same, we had 9,000 meters or 9 kilometers visibility. There was light rain, and the cloud base was scattered at 2,000 feet. It was overcast at 7,000 feet. So when we're talking about clouds on forecasts, there's a couple of key considerations. The first thing is any heights that they give you on these aerodrome forecasts, they're based on height above aerodrome level, or you can think of it as height above ground level for that area. The second thing was, you probably heard me say 2,000, but there's actually, you only can see, for example, 20 written here. Again, they've dropped off 2 zeros off the end. So for any sort of clouds, add 2 zeros to the end, and that's going to give you your height of the cloud base above the aerodrome level. Now the last thing is knowing the difference between scattered and overcast. If you are quite interested, it's telling about basically how many octaves or how many eighths of the sky are covered by clouds. A good diagram for this is in our course notes. It's also in the Aviation Theory Centre's Remote Pilot Guide. You can pick up a copy of that. That shows you a diagram of cloud bases and also how to decode the TAF. But just really quickly, this picture here says, showing you examples, sky clear, there's no cloud. If it said few, it meant there's 1 to 2 octaves or 1 to 2 eighths. Then we've got scattered cloud, which is 3 to 4 octaves, broken 5 to 7 octaves, and then if it's overcast, basically 8 eighths of the sky is covered by a cloud. So in this case here, we said from 0600 UTC or 1600 local, the wind was an easterly, 9 kilometers visibility, light rain, cloud was scattered at 2,000 feet above ground level. Another layer was up at 7,000 feet. Now what I wanted to do is though actually find out what the weather was going to be tomorrow at 12 o'clock local, which we said was 0200 UTC on the third day of the month. So this line here from from the second day of the month, 02, at 0800 UTC, the weather's going to be this. Then what they're saying is from the third day of the month at 0100 UTC. So we're getting very close now to 0200. We've got this weather here. And then what we have is from the third day of the month at 0800 UTC, you can see the weather changes again slightly. So this is beyond the time that we're looking at flying. So the weather we're concerned with is this line here. So tomorrow when I fly at 12 o'clock local, 0200 UTC, this kicks in. The FM says from this time, the third at 0100 UTC, the wind is going to be from the direction of 070 degrees, so an east-northeasterly. 9999, which means 9,999 meters, so greater than 10 kilometers visibility. They're saying showers of light rain, scattered 2,000, and scattered cloud at 5,000 feet. This line we said is not applicable because that's from 1800 local time. Now, other things we've got to consider are these things called tempos and inters. If you haven't come across them before, what a tempo or an inter is, it's an actual deterioration in the weather forecast. So a tempo is a change in the weather for a period of up to 60 minutes, whereas the inter is a deterioration in the weather for up to 30 minutes. So let's see which one of these is going to apply to us at 0200 UTC tomorrow. The tempo, it starts on the second day of the month at 0600 UTC, and it goes through to the second day of the month at 2400 UTC. So that's not really applicable to us because, as I said, we're going flying at 1200 on the 3rd, so this tempo finishes 2 hours before when we're due to go flying, so we don't need to worry about this. But the inter though, let's see if this is applicable. So from the 3rd day of the month at 0000 UTC until the 3rd day of the month at 1200 UTC. So if we think about this, we're actually in the middle of all that, or sort of near the beginning actually. We said we're going to fly at 0200 UTC. So this inter, or a deterioration in the weather for up to 30 minutes, will apply to us. The weather, it's saying that the visibility is going to drop down to 3 kilometers due to showers and moderate rain, and the cloud is broken at 1,200 feet. So let's start to put it all together. We said this line up here applied to us. So what we can expect is from 11 o'clock local tomorrow morning, we're going to expect up until 1800 local tomorrow, an east-northeasterly, 10 k's visibility, light showers of rain. However, within that time period, we're expecting deteriorations of weather for up to 30 minutes. So we might have 30 minutes here, then 30 minutes here, then 30 minutes here. The visibility is going to drop down to 3,000 kilometers due to showers and moderate rain. So that wouldn't be really good to go flying in. The last thing to consider here is what we've got is finally a prob 30, which means a 30% chance. A tempo, so deterioration of weather for up to 30 minutes. Between these times, so 03, on the date, the 03, from 0300 UTC, that's a bit confusing, but the first bit here was the date, the next bit was the time. 0300 up until 1200 UTC. It's saying the wind's going to be variable 20, gusting 35 knots, 2,000 meters. Visibility due to thunderstorms with moderate rain. The cloud's going to be broken at 1,000 feet. That may affect us. Although it's due an hour after where I'm due to go flying, my operation might be going for an hour or so. So what I could expect is soon after I start, about an hour after I start, we've got this temporary deterioration in the weather, thunderstorms, which is obviously no good for flying RPAS. The last thing to consider is when you look through these, you've got this remarks section here. All it's telling you is the temperatures that are forecast. So the first temperature is to do with this time here. So 0600 UTC this afternoon, it was 19 degrees. 3 hours later, 18 degrees. 3 hours later, 18 degrees. 3 hours later, 18 degrees. And over here, these are QNHs or air pressure, not really applicable for most RPAS operations. Down here, you've got what's called a TAF, or a trend type forecast. Basically, it's a more specific type of forecast, only valid for 3 hours, not something we need to really go through at the moment. And then lastly, you've got down here an ATIS. So this is the actual weather that's occurring at Brisbane Airport at the time. And this was at 8:37 local time tonight. This was the actual conditions at Brisbane Airport. So as you can see from the forecast, what we did, the first thing was we worked out, okay, what time are we going flying? And I said it was 1200 local time. We took our UTC correction off, which was 10 hours. That made it 0200 UTC. Based on that, we went through and found, okay, what time applied to us? And we said, okay, well, this line here did. We then did some further investigation. We found out that there was or reductions in the weather for up to 30 minutes. And lastly, we said that we could actually expect thunderstorms with moderate rain as well, possibly soon after we start our operation. So tomorrow is probably not a real good day for me to go flying. That overall is a TAF. I've deliberately found quite a complicated one to talk you through. Spend some time, go back through it. Feel free to email or post any questions you might have about this. And we were happy to answer any of your questions. Our course notes, as well as the remote pilot guide, will also step you through this process if you need some more information.